The storm began 6 miles off the Pillars of Hulk. The Portugonian sailors called those 2 massive shards of jade rock that stuck straight up out of the rough seas dividing the endless ocean, or what we had once called the Atlantic 10,000 years ago, and the great inner sea, they called those rocks the Pillars of Hulk. The pillars marked the dividing line between safe passage through these outer waters beyond the coasts of Portugal and danger in the deep blue sea. Portugonian sailors told the rangers this was where the deep began, where the danger waited down there in the dark depths. At first, the wind sang in the tight cables and ropes of the lithe Portugonian trading galleys as small, almost monkey-like sailors scrabbled and climbed the rigging to set the big sails and beat before the storm. We were heading east into the Med, or rather the Great Inner Sea, as it was now called on maps, in the strange yet familiar tongues we once knew. The ropes and the wind sang along with the busy sailors, working quickly to gain some advantage off what we were heading into, and what was clearly a brewing storm off the starboard bow to the south. The sound in the rigging was not a good sound. "Like a witch being skinned alive," muttered Tanner darkly, as we got ourselves ready for whatever came next. The map was full of blank spaces that might as well have been darkness at midnight. The song of the sailors was more like a prayer. Something to be about while they were busy saving their lives. And ours, too. We had little intel about the rift off to our right, or what people who work on boats call starboard. In Portugonian, it's estibordo. We had no idea what lay in that dark and mysterious region off the north coast of Africa, where once Morocco and Algiers were places on maps we took for granted, thinking then nothing would ever change in the completely dramatic way it had. All we knew was this: things were about to get seriously weird. The fables, myths, and fishwives' tales were the best intel we could develop in the ancient city of Portugal. And if a quarter of what they indicated was true, we were in for it big time. The Portuguese, or as they are now known 10,000 years later, the Portugonians, always sing, no matter what. That's because they always sing while they work, and they're always working. That's my takeaway from the first cities of men the Rangers went to after killing Sisruth the Cruel in the swamp-covered ruins of Tarragon. Portugonians like music. It surrounds them all the time. That there were songs that were to us, the Rangers, refugees out of time, almost familiar and haunting now in their new forms, was weird. And often the Rangers made a game of trying to figure out which songs the Portugonians were singing that came from our time. Sometimes some caught the whiff of something that had once been metal or pop. Other times it was just a haunting tune none of the Rangers could place. I'd spotted a few but kept them to myself for reasons I could never figure out. The songs were once something we knew, but now in Portugonian, different in melody and tone. Sometimes more mournful, sometimes more like a chant, or a prayer when the storm comes for you in the deep blue. The old sailor came to me, speaking slowly but direct, as Santiago always did. Sometimes he said little. Sometimes he mused to no one in particular. He did this when there was a lull in whatever it was that needed doing next to get 3 Portugonian trading galleys hired for the Rangers for an expedition to the south and east moving out in the ocean. He was taller than the Portugonians, and they themselves told me Santiago was once from Navarre, and not one of them, though they considered him to be because of his skill. Navarre, or what the rude map we carry calls Further Navarre, a forgotten province in a fading empire called Acadios, a city to the east where Rome might have been if Italy hadn't been hit by a comet, apparently. There has been no governor from the great capital of Acadios for as long as anyone in Portugal can remember.